All right, folks, so let's start talking about these three penultimate goals in macroeconomics. And for this lesson, we're going to spend time, we're going to try and understand the goal of full employment in an economy. Well, in order to understand what full employment is, we're going to need to define employment. So I'm going to give you a definition of employment here. Employment. All right. Employment is the use of labor factors. So we're talking about the factor of production, labor, okay? You can also say the word resources, labor resources, by firms, okay? So organizations or businesses are making use of labor factors to produce output, remember what output is. Okay, output is product, goods and services. So people, labor factors are being used by businesses to produce stuff. Okay? And when businesses use labor factors to produce stuff and then they pay them in exchange for wages. All right? So the businesses, they use people, their effort and their time to produce stuff, and in exchange they give those people wages. Usually money. Usually the wages are money. Okay, so they usually give them money. Hopefully if you have a job, you get money for working for your employer. Your employer is probably a firm that uses your time and effort to produce stuff, and they give you wages, which is probably a paycheck. You get money, right? Now, I want to clarify something. The word wages in economics, the word wages is what, hang on, let me get rid of this, is what firms call your pay, is what firms call the payment for labor. Okay? This is what firms call it. They call it wages. You call your pay income. Income is what households call pay. Is what households call pay. Okay? So, when a business pays you, they say that they are paying out wages. When you get your paycheck, you say that you are receiving income. But it's the same thing. From the point of view of the firm, it's wages. From your point of view, it's income. Okay? So this is what employment is. It's the use of labor resources, people and their time and effort in exchange for wages, which is usually money. Okay? Now, to begin to understand full employment, something you need to understand is that there are three categories of people. Three types of people. The first is those who are employed. So every person in an economy can be characterized in one of three ways. A person could be employed, and that means a person with a job, someone who has a job that pays wages. That pays wages. Okay? Now, this is regardless of how many hours they earn. So, both full-time and part-time. So let's say that you have a job. You have a part-time job. You work 25 hours a week. You would like to be working a job where you work 40 hours a week because then you'll get more money and you can spend more time working, right? We don't distinguish in macroeconomics. We probably can by now, but we don't really distinguish between full-time workers and part-time workers. If the person has a job, they are considered employed. Even if they're not making enough money to take care of themselves, they are still considered employed. Okay? So, the second kind of person that we have in an economy with respect to employment is we have those that are unemployed. Unemployed. Now, a person who is unemployed has no paying job, has no wage paying job, but is actively seeking to be employed. So they don't fit into this category of employed. They do not have a job that pays wages, neither full-time nor part-time. But they are actively seeking to be employed. They're going out there and filling out applications. They're sending out their resume. They're calling people. They're going to interviews. If a person doesn't have a job, but they're not actively sending their resume out, they're just sort of waiting for someone to call them, they're not actively trying to get a job, that person is actually not unemployed. They are neither employed nor are they unemployed. They are in the third category. And the third category of person is called not in the labor force. Not in the labor force. Now I'm going to talk, we're going to use these not in the labor force a few times in this lesson, and therefore I want to give it an acronym. I'm going to say LF. So not in the labor force. Okay, so somebody who is not in the labor force are all of the people that are neither employed nor unemployed. Very simple. Neither employed nor are they unemployed. Okay? So, these are all the people in the economy that do not have a job that pays wages, and also they are not actively seeking to be employed. Another way to think about it is they are people who are not working, people who are not working and also not looking to be working, and also not looking to be working. All right? So, for example, I have a son, and he's not old enough to be working yet. The state of Georgia will not allow him to be employed because he is too young. And so he is not working for pay. He's also not looking to be working for pay because he's too young. Nobody can hire him. Therefore, my son, right now, at the time of this recording, my son is not in the labor force. Okay? So let's go ahead and define labor force, since we've now said labor force. We have a technical definition for labor force, and the people who are not working and also not looking to be working, they are not in the labor force. So we're going to go ahead and do a definition for labor force. And we're going to have a little bit of circular reasoning here, so please don't hate me for this. But in an economy, the labor force is all people with jobs, meaning they're employed, or actively looking to have a job. Looking to have a job. That's the labor force, okay? But what kinds of people are not in the labor force? Well, the people who are not in the labor force, let me give you a few examples of the kinds of people that are not in the labor force. Students, like college students who don't have a job and they're not looking for a job. Or high school students or middle school students, okay? Young children. Young children. Like an infant, a child that's like, 10 months old. That's a person. They're in the population. We count them in the population because they're a person. But they are way too young to either be employed or unemployed. So we don't count them as unemployed. And they're certainly not employed. What else? How about senior citizens, older people, okay? Let's just put older folks, okay? People who are, let's say, retired, Disabled people oftentimes are not employed. They're also not unemployed because they're not actively seeking to be employed. And then there's a special category called discouraged workers. Discouraged workers. Now, watch this. What is a discouraged worker? There are people out there who are unemployed. They're actively seeking to be employed, and they've been looking for a job for 8 months, 9 months, maybe 15 months, and they just can't find a job. They are actively looking. They're sending out their resume. They're filling out applications, and no one will hire them. And eventually, after looking for so long, they just become discouraged, and they stop looking for work. As soon as they stop looking for work, they move from unemployed down to not in the labor force. And then we would classify them as a discouraged worker. Okay? So those are the 3 types of people in an economy in terms of employment. Here's our definition for employment. And now we're going to move on and we're going to talk about the 3 types of unemployment.